Hello, my great world explorers! Are your globes ready? Because we're about to embark on a wild adventure that'll make your head spin faster than a cheetah chasing its tail. Today, we're diving into a mystery so puzzling that's had scientists glued into their telescopes for over 150 years. Let's set our eyes towards the waters of the Lombok Strait as it stretches way out, creating a line that they say animals refuse to cross. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, hold on to your floating flamingo because this line is 100% real, and it's called the Wallace Line. Now, I know what you're thinking. An invisible line that animals won't cross? Come on, that's bananas! Trust me, this isn't some make-believe story. This is a real scientific phenomenon that's been baffling researchers since before your great-great-grandparents were even born. And let me tell you, it's way cooler than any magic trick you've ever seen. So, what exactly is this Wallace Line? And why is it giving animals such a hard time? Well, imagine you're playing an epic game of the floor is lava, but instead of lava, it's a massive stretch of deep blue ocean. That's kind of what the Wallace Line is for these animals. It's a natural boundary that runs through Indonesia, separating two different worlds of wildlife. On one side, you've got the animals of Asia, and on the other, the critters of Australia. And for some mysterious reason, these animals just can't seem to cross over to the other side. Now, before we dive deeper into this mystery, let's take a quick trip back in time. Picture yourself as a time-traveling explorer, zipping your backpacks as you head out to the year 1859. The world is a different place. No smartphones, no video games, and no TikTok dances. But there is one seriously cool dude named Alfred Russel Wallace. He's a British naturalist with a magnificent beard and an even more magnificent brain. Wallace is trekking through the Indonesian islands, checking out all the weird and wonderful animals when he notices something strange. He looked around, far and wide. Something was bothering him. He realizes that the animals on one side of this invisible line are completely different from the ones on the other side. It's like someone put up an invisible velvet rope in the ocean, politely telling the animals, "You stay on your side!" Like a bouncer at an underwater VIP lounge. Wallace was so amazed by this discovery that he decided to tell everyone about it. And just like that, the Wallace Line was born.
It's beautiful.
But here's where things get wild. This line isn't just some random squiggle on a map. It's not even physically placed on the map. However, it is a real boundary that follows some seriously deep ocean trenches. We're talking about water so deep that you could throw the Empire State Building in it multiple times and still not reach the surface. These trenches form a natural barrier between the islands, making it super tricky for land animals to cross. Now, I know what you're thinking. Can't animals just swim across? Well, my curious friends, that's where things get even trickier. The water around the Wallace Line isn't just deep. It's also got some of the strongest currents you can imagine. It's like nature set up its version of a water park ride. But instead of being fun, it's a major obstacle for our animal friends. Imagine you're a tiger. I know. How cool would that be? You're trying to swim across this watery divide. You jump in, ready to show off your awesome tiger paddle. But suddenly, you're caught in a current stronger than a stampede of wild mustangs. And before you know it, you're being swept away. Not exactly a relaxing day at the beach, right? But the crazy currents and deep water aren't the only things keeping animals on their respective sides of the line. We should also look into how the climate has a huge impact on this divide. You see, the areas on either side of the Wallace Line are like two different worlds when it comes to weather and climate. On the Asian side, it's all tropical and humid, perfect for animals that love to swing through lush jungles and munch on juicy fruits. But as we hop over to the Australian side of the line, then suddenly things get a tad bit drier and cooler. It's like going from a steamy sauna to an air-conditioned room in the blink of an eye. This climate difference is a big deal for our animal friends. Animals that have evolved to thrive in the steamy jungles of Asia would find themselves in a pretty pickle if they suddenly ended up in the drier Australian environment. It'd be like if you went to school one day and found out all your classes were now being taught in a language you've never heard before. Talk about a tough adjustment. But wait, there's more. Give me a minute. I'm feeling like a late-night infomercial host, but I promise this is way cooler than a set of kitchen knives. The Wallace Line isn't just about geography and weather. It's also a testament to the mind-blowing power of evolution. The animals on either side of this line have been doing their own thing for millions of years. They've been evolving separately, adapting to their specific environments, and becoming more and more different from their neighbors across the water. Think of it like this. Imagine you and your best friend decided to have a contest to see who could build the coolest Lego creation. But instead of working side by side, you each went to separate rooms and worked for years without seeing what the other was doing. When you meet again, your creations will probably be totally different, right? That's kind of what happened with the animals on either side of the Wallace Line. On the Asian side, you've got animals that look like they came straight out of a jungle adventure movie. We're talking tigers prowling through the underbrush, orangutans swinging from tree to tree, and elephants trumpeting their way through dense forests. It's like nature's version of an action-packed blockbuster. But hop across the Wallace Line to the Australian side, and suddenly you're in a whole new world. Here, you'll find animals that look like they were dreamed up by a kid with an overactive imagination. Kangaroos bouncing around like they're on pogo sticks. Koalas hugging trees like they're long-lost friends, and platypuses. Well, just being platypuses. Seriously, have you ever seen a weirder animal? It's like nature decided to get extra creative and throw all the rules out the window. Now, you might be wondering, if these animals are so different, has any creature ever managed to cross the Wallace Line? Well, my inquisitive friends, the answer is, drumroll please. Yes, but it's super rare. Only one land mammal has ever been found on both sides of the line. Can you guess what it is? No, it's not a tiger doing a very long jump, although that would be awesome. It's actually the crab-eating macaque. These clever little monkeys somehow managed to cross the Wallace Line, probably by being really good swimmers, or maybe by hitching a ride on floating vegetation. I feel like they found a secret cheat code in the game of animal distribution. But don't get too excited. This is definitely the exception, not the rule. A few other animals have also managed to cross the line, but they're mostly creatures that can fly. Some bat species have made the journey, probably by island hopping and using their awesome echolocation skills to navigate. And of course, birds can fly across pretty easily. But for most land animals, the Wallace Line remains an uncrossable barrier. Now, let's talk about why this invisible line is such a big deal. You might be thinking, okay, so animals can't cross a line in the ocean. So what? Well, my young scientists, this line is way more than just a fun fact to impress your friends with. Well, it's definitely that too. But the Wallace Line is a key to understanding how life on Earth evolves and adapts. You see, by studying the animals on either side of the line, scientists can learn a ton about how species change over time. It's more like having two giant natural laboratories, each running its long-term experiment in evolution. By comparing the animals that evolved on either side, researchers can figure out how different environments shape the development of species. But the Wallace Line isn't just important for understanding the past, it also helps us predict the future. As our planet faces challenges like climate change, studying how animals adapt or don't adapt to different environments can give us clues about how species might respond to changing conditions in the future. It's like having a crystal ball, but instead of magic, it's powered by science. The Wallace Line also teaches us an important lesson about the delicate balance of ecosystems. It shows us how even small changes in an environment can have huge impacts on the animals that live there. This knowledge is super important for conservation efforts. After all, if we want to protect endangered species, we need to understand exactly what they need to survive and thrive. Speaking of conservation, the areas around the Wallace Line are some of the most biodiverse places on Earth. That means they're home to an incredible variety of plants and animals, many of which aren't found anywhere else in the world. But with great biodiversity comes great responsibility. I think that's how the saying goes, right? These unique ecosystems are under threat from things like deforestation, pollution, and climate change. So, what can we do to help protect these amazing places and the animals that call them home? Well, there are lots of scientists and conservationists working overtime to study and protect the ecosystems around the Wallace Line. They're doing everything from tracking animal populations to restoring damaged habitats. But you don't have to be a professional scientist to make a difference. There are tons of ways that explorers like you you can help out. You could start by learning more about the animals that live in these areas and sharing what you learn with your friends and family. Knowledge is power after all. You could also support organizations that work to protect these ecosystems, or even start your own conservation project at school. Every little bit helps when it comes to protecting our planet's incredible biodiversity. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, or should I say a lot of ocean, but there's still so much more to learn about the Wallace Line and the amazing animals on either side of it. So here's a question to keep that curiosity burning. If you could design an animal that could cross the Wallace Line, what would it look like? What special adaptations would it need to survive on both sides? As we wrap up our adventure into the world of the Wallace Line, I hope you're feeling as excited about science and nature as I am. So, my great world explorers, let's keep our eyes open, our minds curious, and our sense of wonder alive. There's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered, and who knows what amazing things we'll find next. Maybe you'll even discover your scientific line someday. And hey, if you enjoyed this wild ride through the world of biogeography, why not share it with your friends? The more people who get excited about science, the better. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment letting us know what other scientific mysteries you'd like us to explore. Together, we can unravel the depth of every spot here on our Earth. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep being awesome. This is your favorite science enthusiast, signing off. Keep in mind, in the game of life, curiosity is your superpower.